Evelyn had always been the quiet shadow in her family, the one who watched, listened, and absorbed every slight, every careless word, every betrayal disguised as love. She had grown up under the warm smiles and tight hugs of the Harrows, but she knew early on that appearances were deceiving. Her father favored her older brother, praising him for brilliance and charm, while Evelyn's own accomplishments were shrugged off or quietly criticized. Her mother, gentle and timid, pretended to be neutral, but Evelyn had learned the subtle language of avoidance, the careful dance of not challenging a fragile pride. The turning point came on a rain-slick evening when her brother, her only blood sibling, crossed a line that could never be erased. He had convinced their father to sign over the inheritance of the family estate under a pretense, claiming he had been misled about a scholarship fund Evelyn had applied for, and in doing so, he erased years of her hard work, her dreams, and her claim to her own future. Her mother, unable or unwilling to intervene, whispered apologies behind closed doors, but Evelyn saw through it all. The betrayal was complete. She could have confronted him in anger. She could have demanded justice in court. She could have shattered relationships in moments of raw rage, but she didn't. That would have been too simple. That would have been petty. Evelyn wanted something deeper, something lasting, something that would etch the cost of betrayal into every corner of his existence. She disappeared quietly from the family's radar, enrolling in distant universities, traveling through cities where no one knew her name, all the while studying psychology, law, and social dynamics. She built networks of friends, allies, and informants without ever revealing her true intentions. She observed her brother from a distance, his confidence, his arrogance, his pride swelling with every perceived victory. Every family dinner he boasted at, every gift he received, every accolade became data points in Evelyn's methodical ledger of revenge. She began small. Subtle suggestions planted in conversations, anonymous tips leading to minor embarrassments, carefully timed interventions that made him appear unreliable, clumsy, even careless. Years passed. Evelyn returned for brief visits, disguised by charm and feigned reconciliation. She attended family events, always quiet, always polite, always seeming to have forgiven. While inside, she was calculating the perfect moment, the ultimate humiliation, the slow, burning collapse. She knew that revenge could not be immediate. It had to fester, had to grow in complexity, had to erode the very foundation of trust, confidence, and self-perception. She wanted her brother to look back on their shared childhood and realize, piece by piece, how carefully and completely she had orchestrated his undoing. She orchestrated subtle incidents that tested his loyalty with friends and colleagues, planted false rumors that he unwittingly spread, and observed his reactions with cold detachment. She learned his routines, his weaknesses, and his insecurities. Every flaw became a weapon. Every relationship became a chess piece. Her revenge was psychological, slow, and absolute, designed to erode not only his reputation, but his sense of reality. Then, one winter evening, Evelyn orchestrated a gathering under the guise of a family celebration. Invitations were extended widely, including old friends, distant relatives, and colleagues from work. Her brother arrived with his usual arrogance, expecting praise and admiration. But the evening began subtly, a misplaced comment here, a carefully leaked, accidental story there. Guests began to notice inconsistencies in his tales, errors in his retellings, and slowly laughter and whispers began to surround him. It was still subtle, still deniable, but it began to sow the first seeds of doubt in his mind. Evelyn watched from across the room, her expression serene, almost bored.
while internally, she savored every flicker of panic, every twitch of irritation, every forced smile. She had designed the entire evening to dismantle his confidence piece by piece. Every slight, every embarrassment, every social misstep was amplified not by malice but by design. And as the evening reached its climax, she revealed the first major truth, a document once hidden that exposed the years of manipulation he had used to claim the family fortune. The room went silent. His friends, his colleagues, and even distant relatives gasped. The document laid out in cold ink the betrayal, the lies, the theft of her rightful inheritance. He stumbled, flustered, trying to recover, but Evelyn had predicted his every move. Each excuse, each denial, each angry retort only tightened the web around him. By the end of the night, he was left publicly humiliated, his arrogance shattered, and his relationships fractured. All meticulously engineered by the sister he had ignored, dismissed, and betrayed. The days that followed were worse for him than any public humiliation could have been.
Evelyn did not stop at the gathering. She infiltrated his life with precision. Friendships, business dealings, even casual acquaintances became instruments of his unraveling. She sent anonymous tips, subtly manipulated communications, and seeded paranoia so that every decision he made seemed to backfire. Slowly, his friends began to doubt him. Colleagues questioned his judgment, and even his closest confidants started pulling away. Evelyn's revenge was no longer just social. She began targeting his inner world. Anonymous messages, carefully worded and timed, reminded him of failures he had long buried. Every memory became a weapon. She knew what triggered anxiety in him, what made him second-guess himself. Sometimes it was as small as a misplaced photo, a private message leaked to the wrong person. A minor incident escalated into a public spectacle, all seeming like coincidences, but orchestrated with surgical precision. Meanwhile, Evelyn's own life bore a price. She moved constantly, sacrificing stability, love, and comfort to maintain the network she had built. The obsession consumed her, but she considered it necessary. If revenge was to be absolute, it demanded patience, sacrifice, and single-minded focus. She missed relationships, opportunities, and personal milestones, all of which were quietly eroded by her dedication to the ultimate reckoning. Yet she remained unshaken. The cost was hers to bear. Her brother began to notice the pattern, the coincidences that never were. He could sense someone, or something, controlling the strings of his life. But he couldn't identify the hand guiding it all. That uncertainty gnawed at him relentlessly. Nights became restless, trust became impossible. Every ally felt potentially compromised. Every choice carried the weight of unseen manipulation. Then, Evelyn escalated. She created a situation where he believed he had finally regained some stability, only to watch it collapse spectacularly. A friend he thought loyal turned against him, revealing confidential information he had shared in trust. A career opportunity evaporated when subtle misinformation she planted caused the decision-makers to question his reliability. Even his family, once blind to her schemes, began to sense the cracks in his facade. He became isolated, anxious, and paranoid, all the while unaware that the architect of his downfall sat quietly in the background, her calm demeanor hiding the storm she had unleashed. But she wasn't done. The psychological games deepened. She sent letters under pseudonyms, claiming to be confidants, betrayers, and informants, each one revealing half-truths that undermined his confidence and sanity. He could not sleep, could not focus, could not trust even his own perceptions. Friends began avoiding him. He lashed out irrationally, alienating anyone who could offer support. He was a man trapped by his own fear, a self-made prison architected by his sister's meticulous planning. The slow burn vengeance reached its apex when she orchestrated a confrontation that seemed accidental but was inevitable. He was alone in a cabin he had retreated to for solitude. Evelyn appeared as if by chance, her demeanor composed, her eyes reflecting the calm patience of a predator. He saw her and froze, not in anger, but in recognition of the truth he had refused to acknowledge for years. "You've been everywhere," he whispered, disbelief laced with fear. Evelyn smiled faintly. "Everywhere I needed to be. Every choice you made, every trust you placed, every arrogance you flaunted, it all led here. And now you see it clearly." He realized too late that the sister he had underestimated, ignored, and betrayed had orchestrated every unraveling of his life. His career, his relationships, his reputation, even his peace of mind, all carefully dismantled piece by piece. The psychologically torment, the slow erosion of trust, and the relentless exposure of his failings were her masterpiece. And yet, Evelyn had paid her own price. Years of isolation, constant vigilance, and emotional sacrifice had left her hollow in ways he would never understand. Revenge had been hers to claim, but it had cost her dearly. Her own joy, love, and innocence stripped away in the pursuit of justice and ruin. The revelation left him broken, shivering, staring at a sister who had endured years of quiet suffering to ensure his downfall. Every betrayal he had committed, every slight he had made, was reflected back at him, amplified, magnified, and undeniable. He was left with nothing but the wreckage of a life he had thought untouchable, while Evelyn walked away, not victorious in the conventional sense, but vindicated, her slow, twisted justice complete. The final months were a blur of controlled chaos. Evelyn didn't need to act openly anymore. Her work was done. Her brother's life had become a web of self-doubt, paranoia, and isolation. Even when he attempted to rebuild, he found himself alone. Friends had abandoned him, business associates no longer trusted him, and family ties had frayed under the pressure of his own erratic behavior. Every decision was haunted by the unseen hand of his sister, and he knew it instinctively, though he could not trace it. The ultimate reckoning came one quiet evening, the kind of night that felt ordinary, almost banal, yet carried the weight of inevitability. He had returned to his childhood home, desperate to reconnect with memories untainted by betrayal. Evelyn appeared in the doorway, calm, measured, her eyes reflecting years of quiet calculation. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. "You thought you could ignore me," she said softly, "and continue your life as if your betrayals meant nothing. You were wrong." He realized with a sinking horror the full scale of what she had done. The betrayals he thought minor, the manipulations he dismissed as coincidences, were the foundation of a psychological cage he could never escape. Every memory was weaponized, every relationship compromised, every dream shattered. The slow, deliberate unraveling of his life had been her masterpiece. I didn't know," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I didn't realize." "You did. You knew, and you chose arrogance over care. You chose betrayal over loyalty. Every choice you made, every person you hurt, every trust you broke, it all comes back to you now." For the first time, he felt the full weight of his sister's vengeance. It wasn't just the loss of career or social standing. It was the complete erosion of his inner world. He could trust nothing, not even himself. Every instinct, every judgment, every perception was tainted by years of manipulation he hadn't even recognized until now. Evelyn's revenge had been psychologically twisted, slow, and relentless. She had allowed him to believe he could recover, only to watch him falter repeatedly, proving to him at every step that he was powerless to reclaim control. And yet, she had paid her own price. Her life had been consumed by this mission, years of solitude, sacrifice, and emotional strain. Revenge had been a burden as much as it had been a necessity. Finally, she let him see the aftermath fully. She presented the consequences of his actions in ways he could not ignore. Letters exposing lies he had told, financial accounts revealing mismanagement he had dismissed, friends recounting betrayals he had thought forgiven. The culmination of years of careful planning and execution left him gasping, broken, and utterly undone. And then she left, not with malice, but with the calm satisfaction of someone who had endured hardship to ensure justice was served. She walked away from a brother who had underestimated her, who had betrayed her, who had thought his life untouchable. In the silence that followed, he understood that the cost of betrayal was not just humiliation or loss. It was the total collapse of trust, of certainty, of self. Evelyn disappeared from his life after that night. Her presence felt only in the lingering devastation she left behind. She had achieved a revenge that was absolute, meticulous, and unrelenting. And though it had cost her dearly, it had reshaped the very fabric of justice in her world. The slow burn was complete. The psychological torment was perfected. And in the echo of his ruined life, Evelyn's victory remained untouched, indelible, and utterly final.